What's up, guys? Welcome to the XL Breakdown. I'm John. I'm joined by Fern.
Hi.
We're the coaches of XL Esports, and we're going to talk about patch 8.10. This isn't something we've pre-prepared. We're not going to break down the numbers on the changes too much, although we have got a few of them for the jungle, as that's the big one in this patch. We're just going to give thoughts on what the changes might have on the meta and what might affect your solo queue and stuff like that. It's also off season for us, which is why we aren't in the house, so you can't see us. But that being said, let's just get into it. So I haven't actually read the champions on these hardly at all, so we'll just see as it goes. So
Yeah.
Scion first, then base health regen decrease, E-base damage decrease. So it does less damage if you knock minions through people, which I guess is so. This is like laning nerf, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite. It's 30% less damage to the target struck by a knockback enemy. You
Yeah.
hardly ever use E for the damage to the actual minion, to whatever you knock back in the first place. Normally to what you knock them that kind of first thing into. So yeah, it's a big laning poke nerf, which obviously his E used to be maxed. Used to do a lot of the kind of laning harassment damage. So from this, I would imagine you'd see much more Qmax. I mean, we start to see a bit more Qmax as E's
Yeah.
become weaker.
So you
On the
take
upside,
glacial augment, right? Glacial augment Qmax or
yeah,
Comet Emax.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I think Emax is just going to become less and less kind of potent,
Hmm.
unless you want to play AP Scion in ARAM or something, which is probably pretty fun with a 0.55 AP ratio.
Yeah.
But generally for normal Scion, I think with the
That
30%, pretty big.
20% to all targets hit, that's quite a big deal though, right? If you can get
Yeah, I
that
mean,
across in a team fight.
again, it justifies just putting 1 point in E, right?
Hmm.
Irrelevant of whether you put 5 in E or 1 point in E. Just getting that arm reduction is a more utility-based thing. So 20% to all targets hit by Roar of the Slayer or knockback enemy. Yeah, pretty nice, and it's for 4 seconds as well. So yeah, really good kind of team fighting tool. But again, utility. So again, I think it would be kind of justifying putting more points in
Yeah.
queue rather than E
So
early.
we're going to still see Scion. We just probably won't be seeing Emax Scion ready at all.
Yeah,
Because
I
quite
mean,
a
his
big nerf
laning
to that, right?
phase either way is going to be nerfed because his Q for laning phase isn't the greatest of tools. His E was all about kind of the range poke that other tanks like him didn't really have, and his strength over the other tanks was mainly laning phase. So,
Hmm.
I guess there's a kind of justification that other tanks are just a bit better in the team fight phase, but I guess equally that E utility
Yeah.
buffs
Seems
his
pretty cool.
later game or team fighting skirmishing a little bit better as well. So
Okay. So I still think he's going to be top tier.
yeah, I still think it'd be fine.
All right. Next one then. Mundo. I have looked at this before because Mundo is unbelievably broken, and I don't think this is anywhere near enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the right way to go in terms of our cooldown being
Mm.
increased, but I don't think it will do enough to take him from being really strong.
Yeah, I think honestly the thing is he does so much damage in mid game and stuff like that, rather than any his ult is really strong now. But I think the big thing that makes him broken is that he can just out duel you without using his ult because he just does so much damage.
Yeah, I mean, in the super early game, he does a lot of range poke, a bit like what Side used to do with E, but he does a lot of range poke with
Mm.
Q, but it does cost him a lot of health if he's not last hit him with Q,
Yeah,
to refund the health. So
but
on that front, it's a little bit hard. But once he gets to mid game, between 6 and 11, he starts to really
yeah,
ramp up.
but also the jungle Emax thing that people have been doing in Korea, especially that's
Yeah,
not that. The reason that's strong is because you get two BF swords worth of AD at level 5.
yeah. No, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I don't think this is anywhere near enough to take Mundo away from actually being really strong.
Poppy, not really. Doesn't really matter that change.
Yeah, she lost a bit of move speed on her W in previous patch, I think. So this just is kind of a compensation, given
Okay.
her base stats slightly more. I
Zac,
mean,
I mean,
doesn't
do we
change
even need
much.
to go into that? It makes AP Zac a little better. It's not going to
Yeah,
make any
doesn't really
difference,
change
really.
normal Zac. If you play AP Zac, yeah, whatever. I
Yeah,
guess
this is
it's
a big
a
deal
bit
if you
more
play
fun. It
AP
actually
Zac,
does more
but
damage, but outside of
I
that, it
don't,
really doesn't change
I
much.
don't think we're going to get any. Maybe one AP IM or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
AP
in the
jungle item maybe.
past, his clear wasn't great, so perhaps Runic Echo Zac is more efficient in the early game rather than just having a Cinderhulk. But
Hmm.
um, there's also changes to Runic Echo, so we'll see that a little bit later on. But that could also impact why you might not go that as well.
This Bard one, again, doesn't really matter. It's not going to make
Yeah, I
any
mean,
difference.
small
I mean, all these were sort of.
W
I
mana.
did want to do them, but they're basically just little things compared
Yeah,
to
I
the
mean,
actual point of the
Bard
patch.
has always had an issue where he can't really be a healing bot with his W,
Mm.
even if W did enough healing because it just costs so much mana. So you're all about your offensive and hoping your AD carry doesn't need that much healing.
Mm.
They're normally used for the move speed just as a getaway route, so it's kind of like a pseudo getaway for people in Bard's lane, whether that's you or the AD carry.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
the mana cost is just going to help you do that a little bit more, but it's not going to make any huge differences.
Okay. And then the Kindred one, I think is actually really quite nice. Like it's a quite a small change in a way, but it's quite a nice
Yeah,
idea,
and
right?
I misread this initially at the start. I thought it was like if one of your marks gets killed within 6 seconds of Kindred damaging it, Kindred still gets it, but it's just allies, which
Yeah.
is still a quality of life buff. I mean,
Yeah,
it'd
yeah.
probably be broken if it was what I said.
But
in
it just
the
means you can. It just means you can go and rush it down as a team and not have to
Yeah, and
rush
you
it
don't
down and
worry
then wait for
about
Kindred.
you last hitting it. Yeah, because I've had
Yeah.
so many times in games where I've played Kindred where, like, even just not thinking about like the AD carry gets lit rub buff or whatever and doesn't value your mark and will just take the mark for you anyway. Whereas you can actually just do it with your AD carry, still give the red buff to the AD carry or whatever,
Mm.
and you take the mark yourself.
Yeah.
Which
Does it make
again,
any
nice.
difference to Kindred ADC? Because when you go you used to have to obviously it wasn't exactly a top tier pick, but you used to be able to invade with your jungler to get marks. But this time they can still smite the jungle camp away, but you get the
Yeah,
boost.
I mean, yeah, technically you can still hand off the golden experience to your jungler while still getting the mark. So technically, yes, it's better than previous
Yeah,
Kindred. I'm not
it's
sure
not
we'll
going to
see
make
any
any
of it,
difference.
but I think if a meta becomes more assassin orientated, then you may see Kindred AD carry like creeping.
I'm gonna skip past the Runic Echoes for now and just do all the stuff that's not jungle, and then we'll do jungle. Warding Totem, I quite like that. Longer, but longer cooldown as well.
Yeah, I mean,
So
overall it works out as more uptime of the ward, I believe, with regards to actually being on the map and being in inventory. When you do the math on it, off the top of my head.
it's
So
60 more seconds of charge and lasts 30 more seconds. So not at level 1 at least.
oh yeah, okay.
So it's a lot less uptime. But even then, I just like the better decisions because they kept coming up all the time. Like especially in bot lane where you've got two people's wards coming up, you can just put them in lane and not really get punished that much. Whereas now, if you're putting them down in lane, you really
Need
are
to
not going to
actually
get
be
them up as
thinking
much,
about it now, for sure.
which is cool. Support and jungle item exclusivity. I actually don't like this. I quite liked the fact that junglers could have the option to get support items, and because
Yeah.
it wasn't like when it was green smite and you just all take it all the time. It was like a big sacrifice to take it, and even on people like Trundle, you wouldn't see it all the time.
Yeah, and they'd done a lot to stop support items being efficient on junglers. You couldn't stack it anywhere near as fast as like a support could, for instance,
Yeah.
using it properly. So it was always
yeah.
slow on a jungler, but sometimes it had really good uses for kind of team-wide effects. So
I mean, I never
not a massive fan, but-
I'm never really a big fan where it's just like you're just not allowed to do this thing anymore, whatever it is. Where it's like
Yeah.
we couldn't balance it, so we're just saying no. Like I don't
Yeah.
know.
I prefer it to be a choice, and okay, maybe it's a bad choice, and no one's going to do it, and you can make it a bad choice if you want to, but
Mm.
I don't think just no is necessarily a good
Okay.
way
Runes
of doing
then. Just because we don't want to get too bogged down with the details. As I say, I think the main thing is jungle, so we can talk
Yeah,
about
we
that we can speculate about that for a while.
That's cool.
Cheap shot damage increase up to double by level
Yeah, I
18.
mean, later games.
But is it 60 damage? Is it worth? Maybe.
I mean, it's much more worth than it was.
Well, yeah,
anyway.
better than it was. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's better things in the tree, right? Normally.
Yeah, it's the heal one or the dash one is normal.
Yeah, and yeah. So, I think you'd have to compare the damage with.
Maybe on like a Nivea or something. I used to
Yeah.
take it on that.
I guess.
You get a lot of CC, and it just means your E is gonna. If you stun someone, your E is gonna do an extra 60 damage. But 60 damage level 18 is not like a lot.
No, I mean the 15 damage early game is probably more relative than the 60 damage early is. 60 damage late. Is.
And then Ingenious Hunter, it's just reworking, like moving the numbers around, but you end up with the same thing. So it's just a little bit better. Sorcery.
Yeah.
Sorcery, like the Phase Rush one, I think could be quite useful. extra 10% level 1 phase rush.
Yeah, I mean 10% is quite a lot.
Yeah. So who was
Quite a big buff?
almost taking phase rush? Because like you have people like Aurelion Sol who would take it most of the time, right?
Yeah, and Swain, who take it pretty much all the time.
Yeah. Is there anyone
Um,
who wouldn't have taken it and now you might?
Xin Zhao Jungle used to either take press the attack or phase rush, depending on matchup. So potentially you take phase rush more often
Yeah, especially if you've got
now
press the
than you
attack
otherwise
somewhere else
did.
on the team.
Yeah. That's the only one
I can't
off the
think
top
of
of my head. I
like
mean,
Rise maybe.
yeah,
Now
or
that
again, since Spellbook got
Spellbook
nerfed,
got
there's
nerfed.
champions that use it quite well like that.
Yeah.
Maybe something like Echo even.
Yeah, that's not a bad
But
chat
then again,
actually as
you
well.
might take
Electrocute.
something more aggressive, yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I
Okay.
mean
So
that's the
like
type of
a nice change gives you slightly more options probably.
Yeah.
Resolve. Oh, Chrysalis bone plating finally. I like this because there's just so many, like basically any melee mid laner you just take Chrysalis bone plating and you get through a lane phase.
I mean,
Or
almost
people
any
even taking it on
champion
AD
that would,
carries as well.
yeah, almost any champion that could get punished in the early game, you just take it to not get punished in the early game.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, whereas it shouldn't be as simple
Is
as
it
that.
enough? It's probably enough, right? 10 less health, 5 less
I
damage
mean,
reduction. It's still going to be
I
good.
think having these things in the game is good because it allows scaling champions to not just be like ignored because they can't scale because you get punished too hard. So they do paper over some of the cracks. It's probably enough. I think bone plating reduction is quite a bit in the early game. Having 5 damage reduction on that
That's like an
off
extra,
is better.
like a Doran's blade less.
Yeah,
Damage, right?
and I think it also opens up for more options for you to not have to take that all the time as well because it's not so much better than the other things. Like Demolish is actually quite a nice rune when used properly, but just because the others were so valuable and so reliable, you would always just go them.
Yeah. Okay. Lastly, then inspiration. Perfect timing. 2 minutes quicker.
Yeah, you now get your stopwatch at 8 minutes. I mean, this was a rune that was taken at the start of the season, like every single game when it was, what was it, a 5-minute cooldown or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Initially. So, again, I think you'll see it more often, especially champions that want to build the stopwatch into something.
At least,
right?
especially in like competitive, right? In solo queue, I can understand, but 8 minutes in competitive, if you look at the way MSI has been, all the crazy stuff happens like early on that seems to like dictate the entire game.
Yeah.
So I don't know how often we'll still see this. I like the fact that it now might be an option again, but I don't think that we're going to see like loads of stopwatches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be like everybody has stopwatch, but I think if you're possibly opting into either GA or what's the tank one called? Holy shit!
Gargoyle Stoneplate.
Yeah, that's it.
That's been a while.
You'll be in a spot there where that just
might
saves
wanna
you the
keep it,
initial 600 gold, right? As well as giving you an early usage of that. Comparatively, could be quite nice. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be like every single game.
Right, then bounties is just a little thing, right? You get more gold per person. More gold for the person who actually gets the kill. Less gold.
All the gold
split,
is
right?
shifted, right? All the gold is shifted to the killer now, and not per person.
Oh, all of it.
It's no longer split. Yeah.
Oh right, okay. I thought it was just a little bit. I hadn't actually read the numbers.
So now, yeah, assists on bounties no longer grant gold. It's just all the gold goes to the killer, basically.
Right. So assists are not just half the kill gold anymore.
No, this don't get anything. Not bonus gold. They don't grant bonus.
Just get 150.
So.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it kind of increases the chance of a certain champion snowballing harder. Card 6 is picking up these kills or whatever. It's not that gold that he should be getting isn't spread out to his team. He's getting it all himself. And as a result, it kind of stuff like that. That those kind of snowbally champions that really benefit from high gold income.
So this it says this, but the things that are changing assists.
Yeah.
Okay, so so the assist used to be half the kill gold, right? Is that? But so
yeah.
this stuff where it's like used to be when it says like 300 gold split amongst the team, those were for the people who didn't even get the assists, and that's changed.
Between the whole team.
And then the other thing is that they also assists don't even get anything extra.
No.
I don't like the fact that assists don't get anything extra.
Yeah.
Because if you're turning around bot lane, and they're like 4-0, but you manage to outplay them and get a kill, but the support gets the kill, then the AD
Yeah.
carry doesn't get any credit
Yeah, or
for
your jungler
helping.
comes and gank and kills them for you.
Yeah.
Only your jungler gets that gold and walks off again, and you're back in a lane where they've had 4 kills and you've had none and just an assist.
Hmm.
So
That's
I
interesting.
think on that sense, yeah, it's worse.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't like the assist thing. I like the fact that there's no goal split amongst the team. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, but overall, we'll just promote snowballing, really. More beneficial on
Hmm.
assassins, more so than anything, I guess.
Okay. Don't want to talk about any further stuff really. Right. So let's go to the jungle then. Should we start with
Okay.
Runic Echo?
Yeah.
So
So
this, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, right? It seems a bit of a strange one to me. Like, the AP junglers who were ever good in the meta are people like Elise and Nidalee and stuff like that.
yeah,
Loved the movement speed. So losing the movement
yeah.
speed is a big nerf to those kind of champions, right?
I mean, I think especially Nidalee.
Hmm.
Sorry, especially
Elise,
Elise
yeah.
needed it because Nidalee's always got a pounce every couple of seconds.
Hmm.
Since this item was introduced, there has been stuff that's introduced like celerity water walking that gives you inherent movement speed anyway. Obviously celerity benefited because you got damage off the extra movement speed that you had, the bonus
Hmm.
movement speed you had off Runic Echoes. But equally, like the movement speed stat itself is you have some more ways of getting around that. I think if you're a champion that uses the mana well, cooldown reduction's a really good stat for junglers generally. One, because it's a jungle clear stat in as much as you can spam your camps more freely on the spam your abilities on camps more freely,
Yeah, yeah.
and as a result, you're getting that like increase in clear speed, and obviously you've got 300 more mana to play with. I think overall, I think the 7% move speed efficiency wise is like slightly more gold valued than the 10% CDR. But then again, I think if you're using mana and CDR,
Hmm.
like something like an Evelyn, for instance, is the new Evelyn benefits massively from cooldown
So
reduction on
are they
her
trying to
W and
bring
R.
in a new set of AP junglers? More like it's not going to be enough to actually get sort of more
I
mage
mean,
style junglers
I
in there.
think it's just trying to make them relevant earlier
Hmm.
because normally with AP junglers, you need your AP jungle item to be able to clear and to be able to get all the
Hmm.
experience and stuff. But then equally, you need other things that accommodate what your champion does. For instance, Fiddlesticks needs Zhonya's, right, to be able to actually
Hmm.
function because he's very squishy. You can't just jump in with ult and hope nothing happens to him. And like other champions like Nidalee and stuff rely on things like Athenes and Ardent to actually make their champion function more. Whereas I think your champion can function better with just this singular item than it could with just older Runic Echoes, maybe.
Hmm.
But still not going to be great. I don't think AP junglers have always had like a rough time. They've never been like super high meta. You get the odd one here and there that's really good, but you never get a meta dictated by AP junglers.
Okay. Right. So let's move on to the actual jungle then. So the basic changes are, if you're really far ahead, you're not going to be slowed down by the 5%. So that's going to be quite nice. And everything scales up, but starts worse pretty much. In terms of
Yeah.
like general XP for each camp.
I mean,
And then
late game's better and early game's worse XP wise.
yeah, and then there's
For sure.
little things like just reworking the early game. But the point is that you're getting slightly less early game, slightly more as the game goes on, and then there's also these rift skulls.
Yeah.
So there's 2 spawn at the beginning, which I really like because they originally said 1 was just going to spawn, and they're going to be basically a much bigger deal. So rather than 10 XP, you're going to get 115 to 230. So that's like a lot. So by 230, which admittedly is level 9, like these level up more than the other jungle camps, but it's still 50 more XP than a buff to take
Yeah.
a rift skull. So that's really cool, and gives you 140 gold, which is insane.
I mean, like Rift Scuttle used to just be mainly for the vision control.
hmm,
It never really counted as a camp in terms of like gold or order experience, like 10 experience off that camp as opposed to over 100 for every other
Hmm.
camp. It felt like you weren't getting anywhere near a TNX level, whereas it actually counts as a camp now pretty much in terms of golden experience, and gold wise it counts
yeah.
very
So
highly.
it does take a bit longer to kill as well. It's got an extra 400 HP level 1.
Yeah.
I was doing a little few things earlier, and we'll get onto the other tests that we were doing, but it takes about sort of 15 to 20 seconds to kill it if you can't break the shield. So being able to break the shield is a big deal because that's actually quite a long time for a camp, even though you're not taking any damage from it. Like it's still, so that was unlike Lee Sin and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to break it, so it could take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Then lastly, items. Talisman basically buffed a little bit, Machete nerfed a little bit, and then the way XP works is a little different, but not something that you'd actually notice probably in terms of it. Like, if you don't have a jungle item, you're definitely not getting 2 off the first camp. You're going to be like 120 XP off 2, so
Yeah.
that's quite
You get this bonus 120 experience off your first camp, which is which is obviously very nice.
Yeah. And then, so if we go to this spreadsheet we did earlier, so this is just like we were just looking at clears that you might do, XP you might get. The basic thing is that your standard clears are not going to get you level 3. So if you look in this column here, you need 660 XP to get to level 3. 3 buffs, 3 camps, you're not going to get it.
Yeah. The only one you can is that one, the Raptors Reds into Krugs. It's the only 3 buff, 3 camp clear that we found that gives you level 3 or 3 camps.
So is this the sort of thing where, like, if you're a much weaker jungler early, let's say you're playing Zac and they're playing Graves or something like that, just pull 2 champs out of the top of my head, this is something that you might actually want to go for because it's like, I can't fight him for scuttles.
Yeah,
I'm going to be more useful later.
You pretty much need to be a talisman user, like an initial talisman user, and have a good AoE clear. So Rengar initially used to do this anyway, this clear, the Raptors Red Krugs. Something like Graves would be fine doing it. Something like Olaf's also fine doing it. But some champions, like Nidalee, for instance, would have a really hard time on doing that clear in terms of health. And Kha'Zix, for instance, definitely couldn't do that clear if he wanted to. Just because you lose so much health and they clear AoE camps very, very poorly, so it's quite difficult for something like those champions. So I think there is a benefit to these AoE heavy clear champions early, but then equally, because there's very few routes that lead you to level 3 without doing 4 camps, I think level 2 junglers that are very good at level 2 will also have a massive benefit because you're more likely to find the enemy jungler now at level 2. And if your level 2 is much stronger than theirs, then you can actually fight at level 2, where something like a Jarvan, for instance, that really doesn't need the shield of W so much, actually relies on the combo that you can get by level 2.
So in terms of changing the meta, it's going to be people who are either better earlier, like the level 2 strong champions like Jarvan, Sejuani might be like helpful again. I mean, Graves will still be good, or champs that are like better later. So it could go back to a more
impactful
tanky
team fighting. Yeah, I mean,
and it's like you pick a tank and you sacrifice the scuttle crabs, or you pick a strong.
I've heard more things about like Ivan and Nunu coming back. Is just obviously you're going to get generally less experience in the early game. Early game really doesn't matter too much for those. They've both got they've got free clears pretty much. With obviously Ivan doesn't care about how much damage the camp does. He gets a set amount of damage taken from the camp and then smites it away. And Nunu obviously consumes the camp, so again doesn't worry too much about the clear and can be very supportive in the late game team fights. Therefore, he's scaling much quicker to a high income and high experience support for a very AD carry orientated meta. So
and
maybe that's something we see more of.
We were talking briefly about this before. I can't remember what you said in terms of like a conclusion. Do you think it's actually worth going? So I think this idea of taking someone who's strong level 2 like a Jarvan, doing one of your buffs, then doing one of their buffs with help from maybe like having your solo lanes push up, for example, and then doubling back and doing the scuttle. Do you think that we're ever going to see a situation where it's like scuttle and then you go with your mid laner just straight across the other scuttle?
I mean, I think you could see buff scuttle if you have mid prio and your mid lane is able to ward very early, like.
But buff into scuttle means you wait like 10-15 seconds for it to spawn, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of slow, but I mean, there's 2 options, right? If you go your buff into enemy buff and then back to get the scuttle, then across the other scuttle, you're in a situation where if they don't recognize that, then that's fine, and they expect to go from their buff across to the side of the jungle you just invaded on, and then control that scuttle while you obviously path the other way. If they do that, that's fine. But like competitively, normally they're going to have an inkling of what you're doing, or they will have kind of tried to find out level 1, or their laners would have placed wards that would have seen you do that. And as a result, they'll just take the trade off and get the scuttle on the other side and your buff as well. So you may see trading sides a lot more, like vertical jungling being enforced because of scuttle priority. But I think it's going to be very much more. I mean, I don't think there's going to be many situations where you can control both scuttles in your first clear. So I think it's going to be very much more about who gets scuttle control within the spawns throughout the game, with obviously only one scuttle spawning on each side, like each time now, not both scuttles spawning on spawn. So you're going to have a situation where you're actually fighting over that, and with it being the value of an actual camp, it's like having an extra camp in your jungle compared to the enemy jungle. So,
yeah.
it could
So I
be
mean,
quite
we haven't
beneficial
really
as
seen
well.
yet, but what do you think is the sort of go-to? Because it used to be, right, in solo queue you just go buff camp, or like buff camp buff. What do you think the standard opening is then? Of like, is it a full clear? Is it a full clear? Is it buff camp scuttle, full clear?
I think
and you just trade off one scuttle.
Aggressive junglers that want to abuse the level 2, so the stuff like Jarvan could go buff, enemy buff, scuttle, and then start to clear their own jungle, and just take the fact that they controlled the one scuttle on one side and they got the extra buff. Or worst case scenario, if someone reads that, then they do the trade off on the other side, like we said. Or if you're a kind of AoE farm heavy jungler, you potentially do what we said about get level 3 as fast as possible with the Raptors red Krugs, and then recall straight into your other side after picking up your second component of your jungle item.
And again, if you've got a way to CC the scuttle, the probably most standard opening would be, and you can do it. You go Raptors, scuttle, red Krugs, right? And you'll be 3 in a bit, and you'll have controlled that. And it gives you obviously a lot more health back as always, because just hitting a jungle camp that's not hitting back is going to give you the regen and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean that opening's kind of good, but it just does allow more time for potential invade on your other side. So.
It's worth noting as well, if you do manage to, with this aggressive jungler, go buff, enemy buff, scuttle, if you can get to the other scuttle as well, full clear, I've not got it written down here, but full clear plus both scuttles is 1 camp away from level 5. So if you've stolen a camp as well, you get level 5 from your first clear, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to be way ahead of lanes and everything at that point.
So in terms of the meta, we think what it's going to be at the moment, it's sort of like people who are strong level 3 are like really good, and what it'll probably be is people who are strong level 2 and people who are strong much later in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think either you just see jungle fall into a more supportive role and they buy cheaper items and don't rely so much on the levels, but are also just able to farm more freely because everyone's trying to farm more to get the same amount of experience they would otherwise. So stuff like Ivan, Nunu actually could become more meta. Or you'll see very powerful level 2 trading junglers that just start their initial route and then look to just punish these other jungler that actually isn't so good level 2.
There's also the thing that you don't get reduced when you... I mean, it's only 5%, but... if you're higher level than the camps, you don't get the reduced thing.
Yeah,
so if you go
if you get ahead, you're going to stay ahead, and you're going to continue to build that lead. It's not you're just going to get reduced experience because you're ahead of the camps level.
And I mean, what about the? I mean, this is again not a particularly serious example, but the sort of idea of someone like a Karthus jungle, where when you start getting later on into the game, you just clear through the jungle super fast. Now all the jungle XP later on in the game is going to get more and more. Do you think there's a possibility that we see maybe some of these champions that when they get past mid game they can just go through the jungle really quickly?
Maybe they're really good viable like late game options.
Because late game you can still keep up in XP in the jungle.
Yeah, I'm not sure really. It's quite a hard one. I think that's viable and just playing for the late game, but then equally I think that would get punished very very hard by something that's strong level 2. Like you could just immediately invade the Karthus and go super aggressive, and him being level 2 while also being an AP control mage without your kind of real mana or anything like that to start with could be kind of tough. So I think it's quite an interesting one. I think overall it's like a general nerf to jungle, which has been such an early game role for so long. It's been all about impacting, especially in competitive. It's been about impacting the early game of your lanes and the way that the map's situated. So I think to that extent of the way you look at the jungle, it's a nerf, but it'll be interesting to see kind of what unfolds there.
Okay, cool. I think that's it then for all the patch we've got.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. As I said, this is the first time we've done something like this, so let us know what you think about it. When we get back to the house, we'll do more. It'll be a more official show. There'll be cameras, there'll be overlay, that kind of thing. But we thought this might be a useful thing for people in terms of maybe getting a little head start on other people as adapting to the meta and stuff like that. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.